Japan is a country of contrasts, a place where ancient traditions exist alongside futuristic technology. It is a society known for its politeness, its order, and its incredibly low crime rate. Yet, beneath this placid surface lies a complex and often misunderstood world. The world of the Yakuza. These organized crime groups are as much a part of Japan's modern history as sushi and sumo wrestling. They are not simply gangsters in the Western sense. Their story is deeply woven into the fabric of Japanese society, a tale of outcasts, codes of honor, and a strange, shifting relationship with the public and the police that has lasted for centuries. Understanding the Yakuza is to understand a hidden side of Japan itself. To an outsider, the Yakuza might just seem like criminals. They are involved in illegal gambling, extortion, and other nefarious activities. That is true. But that is only a fraction of the story. For a long time, they were seen by some as a kind of necessary evil, a group that maintained order in the underworld where the police could not, or would not, tread. They had offices with golden nameplates, published their own magazines, and even gave press conferences. This open existence is one of the most baffling things to comprehend. How could a criminal organization operate so openly in one of the most law-abiding nations on Earth? The answer is complicated and stretches back hundreds of years. This essay will attempt to pull back the curtain on this shadowy institution. We will explore their humble beginnings among the gamblers and peddlers of feudal Japan. We will look at the strict codes they live by, codes that borrow heavily from the samurai ethos, creating a strange paradox of honor among thieves. We will examine their complicated role in society, where they could be both feared extortionists and the first to provide aid after a natural disaster. We will also delve into the modern era, a time of immense change where the Yakuza have faced new laws and a society that no longer tolerates their presence as it once did. The world of the Yakuza is fading now. New laws and a changing social climate have pushed them further into the shadows than ever before. Their membership is dwindling, and the old ways are dying. But their impact on Japan remains. They have shaped the country's economy, its politics, and even its popular culture, from films to video games. To truly grasp the Japan of today, one must look at all its parts, including the ones that are uncomfortable or hidden from plain sight. The story of the Yakuza is a crucial if dark chapter in the ongoing story of this fascinating nation, a story of the chrysanthemum and the sword. The story of the Yakuza does not begin with sharp suits and luxury cars. It starts much earlier, in the Edo period of Japan, which lasted from 1603 to 1868. During this long era of peace under the Tokugawa shogunate, society was rigidly structured. At the very bottom were the outcasts. Among these groups were two distinct types who are considered the direct ancestors of the modern Yakuza, the Bakuto and the Takiya. They were not noble warriors or powerful lords. They were the unwanted, the drifters, and the people who lived by their wits on the fringes of a highly ordered world. Their existence was a direct response to the society that had cast them out. The Bakuto were gamblers. They made their living from dice games, card games, and running illegal gambling dens along the major travel routes of Japan. They were often heavily tattooed, a practice that served to mark them permanently as outlaws, as tattoos were used as a form of punishment. The very name Yakuza is believed to come from a worthless hand in a card game called oyabun-kobun. The numbers 8, 9, and 3, or Yakuza, added up to a losing score. By calling themselves Yakuza, these gamblers were embracing their status as good-for-nothings or losers in the game of life, turning a label of shame into a badge of defiant identity. The other founding group, the Takiya, were itinerant peddlers. They traveled from town to town, selling shoddy or stolen goods at festivals and markets. They were a step above beggars but still very much on the margins. To protect themselves from rivals and to control their territories, they began to form organized groups. These groups offered protection, set up stalls, and managed the flow of commerce in the bustling marketplaces. They developed their own hierarchies, rituals, and rules, creating a semblance of order and a tight-knit community for people who otherwise had none. This sense of brotherhood and territorial control would become a cornerstone of Yakuza structure. Both the Bakuto and the Takiya were born out of necessity. They were composed of individuals who did not fit into the strict social classes of feudal Japan. They were masterless samurai, disgraced artisans, and poor farmers who had fled their lands. In their own separate worlds of gambling dens and festival markets, they created their own societies with their own rules. They provided a service, albeit often an illegal or disreputable one, and they protected their own. It was from this fertile ground of societal outcasts, the gamblers and the peddlers, that the complex organization we now know as the Yakuza would eventually grow and evolve. The connection between the Yakuza and the samurai is one of the most fascinating aspects of their history. When the long peace of the Edo period began, Japan suddenly found itself with a large class of warriors who had no wars to fight. Many samurai, known as ronin, became masterless, losing their stipends and their place in society. Some of these displaced warriors, skilled in combat but lacking a purpose, drifted into the world of the Bakuto and Takiya. They brought with them the samurai's strict code of ethics, known as Bushido, or the Way of the Warrior. This code would be adapted and twisted to fit the needs of a criminal underworld. The Yakuza adopted many of the outward trappings and internal philosophies of the samurai. They created a master-disciple relationship called the oyabun-kobun system. The oyabun acts as the father figure or boss, while the kobun are his children or followers. The kobun swears absolute loyalty and obedience to the oyabun. In return, the oyabun provides protection, guidance, and support. This structure mirrors the feudal relationship between a samurai lord and his loyal vassals. It created a powerful bond of fictive kinship that ensured discipline and order within the chaotic world of organized crime, making the group stronger than any single member. This samurai influence is also seen in the Yakuza's emphasis on jingi, which can be translated as justice and duty. It is their code of conduct. This code dictates how members should behave towards each other and towards outsiders. It stresses the importance of media group, man bowing deeply in apology, solemn Japanese ceremony stock distribute equally, not bringing shame upon the group, of keeping one's word, and of enduring hardship with stoicism and without complaint. Of course, this was a selective interpretation of the samurai code. While they prized loyalty and honor within their own ranks, these principles did not always extend to the general public, who were often the victims of their criminal enterprises. It was honor among thieves, a paradox at the heart of their identity. The Yakuza's self-image as inheritors of the samurai tradition was a powerful piece of branding. It allowed them to see themselves not as mere criminals, but as honorable outlaws upholding a forgotten code in a modern world that had lost its way. This romantic notion, while deeply flawed, helped them justify their existence both to themselves and, for a time, to a segment of the Japanese public. They were the rogue samurai, the keepers of a certain kind of traditional Japanese masculinity. This connection, however tenuous, gave them a mystique and a cultural legitimacy that other criminal organizations around the world simply do not have. The Yakuza world is governed by a strict set of unwritten rules and elaborate rituals, all designed to enforce loyalty and discipline. At the core of this is the concept of jingi, the code of justice and duty that every member is expected to uphold. This code is not just a set of abstract ideas, it is a practical guide for survival in the underworld. It dictates that a Yakuza member must be brave in the face of danger, loyal to his boss and brothers, and must never betray the secrets of the organization. He must also show a certain kind of chivalry, at least in theory, by not harming ordinary citizens or civilians, known as katagi, without cause. This code is what separates them, in their own minds, from common street thugs. One of the most infamous rituals associated with this code is Yubitsume, or the act of finger shortening. This is the traditional way a Yakuza member atones for a serious mistake or failure. To show his sincere apology, he will use a sharp knife to cut off the tip of his own left little finger at the first joint. He then wraps the severed digit in cloth and presents it to his oyabun. This act serves two purposes. First, it is a powerful and painful demonstration of remorse. Second, it permanently weakens his grip on a sword handle, a symbolic reminder of his reduced status and reliance on the group for protection. It is a stark and brutal illustration of the price of failure. Initiation into a Yakuza family is also a deeply ritualistic affair. The most important ceremony involves the sharing of sake, the Japanese rice wine. The new recruit, the kobun, and his boss, the oyabun, sit facing each other as the sake is prepared. The oyabun's cup is filled to the brim, signifying his high status. The kobun's cup receives a smaller amount. They then drink from each other's cups, a symbolic act that seals their father-son bond. This ceremony, known as Sakazuki Goto, formally binds the new member to the family. From that moment on, his loyalty to his oyabun is meant to be more important than his loyalty to his own biological family. These codes and rituals are essential for maintaining the Yakuza's internal structure. They create a powerful sense of shared identity and mutual obligation among men who live outside the law. The threat of violent punishment and the promise of belonging to a powerful brotherhood keep most members in line. While the romantic ideals of Jingi are often contradicted by the reality of their criminal activities, the code itself has been a remarkably effective tool for control. It has allowed these organizations to survive for centuries, weathering internal conflicts and external pressures by relying on a foundation of ritual, loyalty, and the ever-present threat of brutal consequences for any transgression. For much of their history, the Yakuza occupied a strange gray area in Japanese society. They were undeniably criminals, yet they were also tolerated, and sometimes even tacitly accepted, by the authorities and the public. This complex relationship stems from their role as enforcers of a certain kind of order. In the chaotic years after the Second World War, Japan's police force was weak and overwhelmed. The Yakuza stepped into this power vacuum. They controlled the black markets, settled disputes in their territories, and kept petty crime in check. This created the perception that they were a necessary evil, a force that managed the underworld so the police didn't have to. This quasi-legitimacy was most visible in their community activities. Yakuza groups have a long and honestly surprising history of providing disaster relief. After the devastating Kobe earthquake in 1995, the largest Yakuza syndicate, the Yamaguchi Gumi, was famously faster and more effective than the government in providing food, water, and shelter to the victims. They used their extensive networks and logistical skills to mobilize aid immediately. They repeated this performance after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. These acts of public service, while likely also a form of public relations, really complicated their image. How could a group be both a ruthless criminal gang and a charitable organization? However, this positive image is only one side of the coin. The other side is much darker. The Yakuza's main sources of income have always been rooted in crime and exploitation. They run illegal gambling operations, engage in loan sharking at exorbitant interest rates, known as sarakin, and are deeply involved in extortion. One of their classic tactics is Sōkaiya, where they buy a few shares in a company and then threaten to disrupt shareholder meetings with embarrassing questions unless they are paid off. They've also profited immensely from the construction and real estate industries, often through intimidation and bid rigging, as well as from Japan's nightlife and sex industries. This duality defines the public's perception of the Yakuza. For a long time, many ordinary Japanese citizens felt that as long as they didn't get involved in gambling or borrow money from the wrong people, the Yakuza would leave them alone. There was a sense that they managed their own world and kept it from spilling over into mainstream society. This view allowed them to operate openly for decades, with headquarters clearly marked in major cities. They were the monsters who kept other, more chaotic monsters at bay. This precarious balance, however, would not last forever, as the nature of their crimes began to change and public tolerance started to wear thin. The history of the Yakuza is not just a story of faceless organizations, it is also populated by larger-than-life individuals whose actions shaped the underworld. One of the most legendary figures is Yoshio Kodama. He was not a traditional Yakuza boss but a powerful right-wing political fixer, or Mai, who operated behind the scenes. Before and during the Second World War, he was an ultranationalist and spy who plundered vast resources from China. After the war, he used this immense wealth and his connections with American intelligence to help establish the political order of post-war Japan. He was the ultimate puppet master, funding political parties and using Yakuza groups as his muscle to suppress labor unions and leftist movements. Another towering figure was Kazuo Taoka, the third-generation head of the Yamaguchi Gumi. When he took over in 1946, the Yamaguchi Gumi was just a small gang in Kobe. Through his ruthless ambition and brilliant organizational skills, he transformed it into Japan's largest and most powerful criminal syndicate. He was known as the Godfather of Godfathers. Taoka expanded the group's operations from simple gambling and entertainment into legitimate businesses like construction, port labor, and talent agencies. He famously declared that all his members should have legitimate jobs as a cover. His leadership defined the modern Yakuza, turning it into a corporate-style enterprise. Not all famous Yakuza are known for their business acumen. Some are remembered for their sheer brutality. Yasunori Hasegawa, a member of the Goto Gumi, was infamous for his role in the attack on the film director Juzo Itami in 1992. Itami had just released a film called The Gentle Art of Japanese Extortion, which satirized the Yakuza and taught people how to stand up to them. In retaliation, members of the Goto Gumi ambushed and slashed Itami's face, a violent warning to anyone who dared to disrespect them. The attack sent a chill through Japan's media and entertainment industry, demonstrating the Yakuza's willingness to use violence to protect their image and interests. These figures, from the shadowy political fixer to the empire-building godfather and the brutal enforcer, illustrate the different facets of the Yakuza world. They were not just simple criminals, they were complex men who wielded immense power in both the underworld and, at times, the legitimate world. Their stories are a mix of business strategy, political intrigue, and shocking violence. They are the legends that have contributed to the enduring and often terrifying mystique of the Yakuza, cementing their place in the dark corners of modern Japanese history and ensuring their stories would be told for generations to come. The late 1980s were a transformative period for Japan and for the Yakuza. This was the era of the bubble economy, a time of incredible economic growth when stock and real estate prices soared to unbelievable heights. The Yakuza, always opportunistic, saw a golden opportunity. They moved aggressively into the legitimate economy, becoming deeply enmeshed in real estate and finance. They specialized in a practice known as, or land sharks. They would use intimidation and harassment to force reluctant small landowners and tenants to sell their properties, clearing the way for large, lucrative development projects. This was a hugely profitable business that made many Yakuza groups incredibly wealthy. During this period, the Yakuza became more corporate and sophisticated than ever before. They set up front companies, invested in the stock market, and engaged in complex financial crimes. They shed some of their more thuggish appearances, with many members swapping flashy tattoos and missing fingers for sharp business suits and briefcases. They were no longer just running gambling dens, they were playing in the high-stakes world of corporate finance. This influx of easy money led to a more materialistic and less traditional mindset within some groups. The old codes of honor and duty were sometimes overshadowed by a simple, ruthless pursuit of profit, causing friction between older and younger generations. However, the bubble had to burst. In the early 1990s, the Japanese economy crashed, and the country entered a long period of stagnation known as the Lost Decade. The Yakuza were hit hard. The real estate deals that had been so profitable suddenly became worthless. Companies that owed them massive debts went bankrupt, leaving the Yakuza with huge losses. This economic downturn put immense pressure on the syndicates. The easy money was gone, and they had to find new ways to make a living. This led to a resurgence in more traditional and often more violent street-level crime as they struggled to maintain their income streams. The bursting of the bubble also changed public perception. During the boom years, the Yakuza's involvement in the economy was often overlooked. But when the economy collapsed and stories of their predatory lending and fraudulent deals came to light, public tolerance evaporated. People who had lost their savings and homes were in no mood to see gangsters profiting. This shift in public attitude gave the government the political will to finally take strong action. The era of quiet tolerance was coming to an end, and the Yakuza were about to face a new and far more dangerous enemy: the law. The 1990s marked the beginning of the end for the Yakuza's open and quasi-legitimate existence. In 1992, the government enacted the Anti-Boryokudan Act, meaning violent groups is the legal term the police use for the Yakuza, a name the groups themselves despise. This new law did not make being a Yakuza member illegal, but it made it much harder to do business. It allowed police to designate official syndicates and prohibit them from engaging in activities like extortion and aggressive debt collection. The law was a major turning point. It was the first time the state had systematically targeted the organizations themselves rather than just individual criminal acts. The legal pressure intensified in the 2010s with the introduction of prefectural exclusion ordinances across the country. These local laws were even more powerful. They made it illegal for any ordinary citizen or business to knowingly do business with a Yakuza member. This meant a gangster could no longer open a bank account, rent a flat, buy a mobile phone, or even get insurance. These laws were designed to cut the Yakuza off from the rest of society and strangle their sources of income. Suddenly, even former members found it nearly impossible to reintegrate into society, creating a new class of untouchables with nowhere to go. The result of these laws has been a dramatic decline in Yakuza power and numbers. Total membership has plummeted from a peak of over 180,000 in the 1960s to less than 25,000 today, and the average age of a member is now over 50. The old pyramid structure is crumbling. The lack of new recruits, combined with the difficulty of making money, has weakened the syndicates immensely. This has also led to internal strife. In 2015, the mighty Yamaguchi Gumi, Japan's largest syndicate, split apart in a bitter dispute, leading to a series of violent clashes between rival factions. The once monolithic organization was showing deep cracks. Today, the Yakuza are a shadow of their former selves. They are still involved in crime, but they have been forced deeper underground. Their new rackets include cybercrime, stock market manipulation, and infiltrating the nuclear and construction industries, but their influence is greatly diminished. They are no longer a necessary evil, but are viewed by the vast majority of Japanese people as a dangerous and anachronistic nuisance. The police, once tolerant, now actively hunt them. The twilight of the Yakuza has arrived. They are a dying breed, struggling for survival in a Japan that has finally decided it no longer has a place for them. The long and complex history of the Yakuza is drawing to a close. From their origins as societal outcasts in feudal Japan to their rise as corporate-style criminal empires, they have left an indelible mark on the nation's cultural and economic landscape. They were a product of their time, thriving in the gaps left by society and the state. For centuries they operated under a strange social contract, providing a perverse form of order in the underworld in exchange for a degree of tolerance from above. They were the organized crime group that had business cards, fan magazines, and publicly listed headquarters, a uniquely Japanese paradox. The Yakuza's self-styled image as honorable outlaws, modern-day samurai, following a code of Damsu, was a powerful myth. It gave them a cultural resonance that separated them from common criminals and allowed them to romanticize their own existence. This mystique was reinforced by their rigid hierarchical structure, elaborate rituals like Ei, and the brutal finality of. Yet, this romanticized image was always at odds with the grim reality of their business extortion, violence, and the exploitation of the vulnerable. They were both philanthropists in times of disaster and predators in the back alleys of finance and entertainment. The systematic legal assault that began in the 1990s, culminating in the nationwide exclusion ordinances, has proven to be their undoing. By cutting them off from the legitimate economy and society at large, the laws have starved them of money and recruits. The once mighty syndicates are now shrinking, aging, and fracturing. The Yakuza are no longer a parallel power in Japan. They are a beleaguered and fading remnant of a bygone era. The Japan of the 21st century, with its interconnected global economy and low tolerance for organized crime, simply has no room for them anymore. The social contract has been definitively broken. While their power wanes, the Yakuza's legacy endures. They remain a potent symbol in popular culture, a source of fascination in films, manga, and video games around the world. Their story is a compelling, if unsettling, look into the hidden corners of Japanese society. It reveals the complex interplay of honor and crime, of tradition and modernity, that defines so much of the nation's character. The sun is setting on the world of the Yakuza, but the long shadow they cast over modern Japanese history will not disappear anytime soon. Their tale serves as a crucial reminder that even in the most orderly of societies, a dark and powerful underworld can take root and flourish.